Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the E&T All-Staff Virtual Meeting. We're going to get started right now. Just as a reminder, I've actually muted everybody's mic so that the speakers will have the audio only. And so just make sure that you don't accidentally unmute yourself. And if you see the different features in Zoom, we'll also be sharing a presentation and whatnot. So please don't click the share screen unless you want us to all know what you're doing right now. To get started, there's a couple web URLs that we'd like you guys to be aware of right now, some important up-to-date information on COVID-19 and the situation on campus. So if you want to save these, we will be providing the presentation after the forum, so you can always go back and click these links. UCLA posts all of its general status updates at ucla.in/coronavirus. And UCLA administration also created an employee FAQs section on their website as well, so you'll see that link below. So now I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Renee Fortier, who will tell you about what we're going over today.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. So thank you for joining us with our Events and Transportation All-Staff meeting to discuss the impacts of COVID-19 and how we as an organization are navigating operations during this time. Before we begin, I want to say that I hope you are all well and taking good care of yourselves, your families, and your loved ones. And I want to reassure you that the senior management team and I are continuing to address issues as they arise and remain as responsive as possible. It has been a very fast-changing time in terms of a lot of the leaves and other information, so that is why it's taken us a while to get this forum together to connect with you. For those of our staff who are working to support essential campus operations, we recognize the challenges being asked of you, and we appreciate your flexibility, understanding, and perseverance as we all move through this together. So during today's meeting, we'll provide operational updates, discuss the leave policy, supply you with important financial resources and counseling information. And we're very happy to have Jorge Cherbosque from the UCLA Staff and Faculty Counseling Center join us with a talk entitled Developing Emotional Intelligence, Resilience, and Optimism in Changing and Uncertain Times. So at the end of the meeting, we'll be answering frequently asked questions from the Events and Transportation team. There were a lot of questions submitted, so we may not be able to answer every one of them today, but we will get information out later. But we'll do our best to at least address all the frequently asked questions today. If you haven't already submitted a question, please do so through the Zoom chat feature to address it to Eric Liu, and you'll have until 9:20 to submit additional questions. So to begin with today, we're going to have Matt Corbin start us off with operational updates. Matt?
Thank you, Renee. Good morning, everybody. For E&T operational updates, you can visit transportation.ucla.edu/service updates to get additional updates on services that are currently running or in service and things that are not in service. For building updates, the Strathmore Building Transportation Office is currently closed until further notice. If you must absolutely come to the office, call the Ronald Reagan Valet Operations at 310-206-8698 for access. Lobby closures. All in-person lobby transactions are suspended until further notice for both events and transportation. Teams are working remotely to support customers via phone, email, and online chat. For commuter and parking services, medical operations, parking and valet is still operational. Brew and commuter programs, customer service is working remotely. Some van pools are still running. For assets, construction and enforcement is still operational. For fleet and transit, Operating normally are the campus fueling stations, still available 24/7. Fleet and transit, light duty and heavy duty maintenance is fully operational, and Bruin car services are still operational. Services temporarily suspended are Bruin Bus, Bruin Access, and UCLA Safe Ride. For the events office, event scheduling is not currently scheduling any meetings, events, or film shoots that take place on or before June 12th of 2020. We are currently taking requests if they occur on June 13th, 2020 or later. While the events office on-campus location is currently closed, we are continuing normal business operations remotely. For additional support services, contact info is below. Now I'm going to turn it over to Veronica Martinez for updates on UCLA leave policies.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica Martinez, and I am E&T's Health and Human Resources Manager. I'll be providing information regarding UCLA leave policies relating to COVID-19. First, there is the UC Expanded Paid Administrative Leave, also known as PAL. PAL consists of a maximum of 128 paid hours. It can be used intermittently until December 31st, 2020. It can be used before or after the use of any accrued time, and employees should consult with their supervisor. Eligibility for PAL is based on employment status. Full-time employees receive 120 hours. Part-time employees are eligible for a prorated amount. There is no prior service requirements. PAL is available to use for the COVID-related illness of an employee or their family member. It can also be used for dependent care due to a COVID-related closure of a dependent school or daycare, or it can be used when telecommuting is not a feasible option. PAL is available for use in whole day increments for monthly paid employees. For biweekly paid employees, PAL can be used in increments of less than a whole day, and it may be used intermittently. Also available is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, also known as FFCRA. FFCRA has two options. The first is Emergency Paid Sick Leave, which is also known as EPSL. It is a federally paid leave for employees who have work available to them but are unable to work due to reasons related to COVID-19. There is a maximum of 80 hours available to full-time employees. Part-time employees are eligible for a 2-week equivalent. The effective dates to use this leave are April 1st through December 31st, 2020. All employees are eligible and no prior service is required. Please note, the leave must be taken as a 2-week block, which means that all the leave has to be taken at one time. EPSL can be used for the following reasons. If an employee is unable to work, including unable to telework because of a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19, under the advisement by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine related to COVID-19, is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and is seeking a medical diagnosis, is caring for an individual subject to an order described in bullet point 1, or self-quarantine as described in the second bullet point, is caring for his or her child whose school or place of care is closed or childcare provider is unavailable due to COVID-19 reasons, or is experiencing any other substantially similar condition specified by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The second option is the FFCRA Expanded Family and Medical Leaves, also known as EPML. Again, it is a federal paid leave for employees who have work available but are unable to work due to COVID-related reasons. There's a maximum of up to 12 weeks available. The first 2 weeks are unpaid. An employee may elect to use other paid leaves to cover these weeks with PAL or EPSL. That leaves a maximum potential of up to 10 paid work weeks under EPML. Like EPSL, the effective dates are April 1st through December 31st, 2020. Eligible employees must be on the UCLA payroll for 30 days prior to the leave. The leave must be taken minimally in 2-week blocks, which should be approximately 80 hours. The EFML can be used when an employee is unable to work or telework because they are caring for a child whose school or place of care is closed or a child care provider is unavailable due to a COVID-19 related reason. Similar to the fifth bullet point under EPSL. Any prior FMLA usage for 2020 reduces the employee's 12-week EFML entitlement. Likewise, EFML usage reduces an employee's 2020 FMLA entitlement. Further information can be found on the link included in this slide. Another option for employees is the UCLA Talent Match program. This program temporarily reassigns current staff and students from departments that have scaled down their operations to those that may be understaffed. It pairs employees who wish to continue working with opportunities available on campus and through UCLA Health. Employees are matched with positions based on their skills and experience required for the job, as well as meeting the physical requirements and immunizations if required. For more information, the link is provided here on this slide. There are some questions that were submitted earlier this week. This question is, what if I don't want the job I was matched with in the UCLA Talent Match program, but my regular job isn't available for work right now? Will I still get paid? If an employee declines a talent match offer and all leave the employee is entitled to has been exhausted, the employee would have to use their accrued time or to remain on pay status. Can I combine administrative leave and other time on a given day? Under Pell, yes, you can. Under FFCRA, no, you cannot, unfortunately. Biweekly employees can use Pell leave time in increments and can combine the paid leave with regular work hours, vacation time, sick leave, or leave without pay in order to extend your working pay period and still accrue personal leave hours. Are people who run out of leave time eligible for unemployment benefits? If you have a reduction in regular work hours, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits. Please visit the California EDD website for more information. The link is included here. Per Human Rights HRPC South, employees do not need to exhaust any applicable leave before applying. Additional questions submitted through chat will be addressed at the end of this meeting, time permitting. Back to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Veronica. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were all aware that we have an employee resources webpage that was created. We sent out the link via an E&T news bulletin several times over the past month or two, but please make sure that you bookmark this page. It basically houses all the information that we are getting and funneling it to you guys. So it's all posted here. You'll see financial resources, links to free or reduced cost programs in your city, such as food benefits, legal aid, and financial assistance. There's also unemployment benefits information that Veronica just referenced. So it's a really good resource to make sure you bookmark and check often. There's also counseling resources information. So both for students and full-time career employees and contract employees. There's UCLA Staff and Faculty Counseling Center. There's the Student Counseling and Psychological Services Center. So both of those are great resources if you need any counseling during this time. We also want to encourage you to stay connected to your colleagues. We are going to be launching a new E&T virtual break room water cooler next week on Zoom. So we'll send out the link to everybody so you guys can join at any point during the day, pop in on a work break or your lunch break or toward the end of the day and just see who's in there, connect with your colleagues, say hello, stay connected while we're all at home. We're also going to roll out a Kudos pilot program. This is going to be a new E&T employee recognition program where you can send real-time virtual pats on the back to engage one another and acknowledge your fellow coworkers for a job well done. So you can see more telecommuting resources and resources for when you're staying at home at the link on this screen. We also feature some tips to stay healthy on the employee resources webpage. You'll see we're still sending out the monthly E&T newsletter, and that has tips on how to stay healthy while you're at home during this time. You can also sign up for UCLA Recreation's Move Mail, and it's basically like a twice daily reminder to get up and move in your house with tips and video instructions on simple things and exercises that you can do from home. And next up, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Jorge Cherbosque from UCLA Staff and Faculty Counseling Center. He's going to speak to us about developing our emotional intelligence, resilience, and optimism in changing and uncertain times. After Jorge speaks, we will host the Q&A session with the questions that you submitted via the form this week. So I'm going to turn it over to him. And I believe you should be able to share your screen now.
Yeah, perfect. So can everybody see it? Yes?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much for inviting me. And I am Dr. Jorge Cherbosque, the co-director of the UCLA Staff and Faculty Counseling Center. And want to thank you, for keeping this beautiful campus, going to, and also want to remind you that we're open for business. So then I'm going to share the slides and some many references with you that I'm talking about today, and we will include our telephone number, but this time we're doing sessions by Zoom or by telephone, and want to remind you that we are open for you and your family members. So, they can call and we can do a session with you and provide long-term resources as well. Let me talk to you a little bit about COVID-19, because we're really facing, and I think a good word is unprecedented. I think this is an unprecedented time, unless you maybe were in Second World War, where the whole world was focused around an event like this that was so unique, very fearful, very stressful, very dangerous and uncertain times. And I think, what makes it very difficult for us as human beings is that I think it clusters some emotions that are hard for human beings to deal with them. The first one is uncertainty. Human beings want always to have completion. If I will put a little bit in the blackboard, incomplete circle, the first thing you'll want to do is to, round it. And kids, when you take them to the beach, the first thing they want to do is to put sands into shapes, because we want to feel like the world is not random, that there is some certainty. The second thing is, many of us are very control-based, and so difficult for many of you to feel like there are many things you cannot control around this situation. And the third thing is danger. This is very difficult emotions. And I think to understand this better, it's interesting to go back to Maslow. I'm sure many of you remember the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And Maslow was an amazing psychologist, a great also physician, and an anthropologist, a very Renaissance man. And he helps us understand that, especially in the bottom of the pyramid, there is we need to have our physiological and our safety needs fulfilled for us to be able to even to function and to not be emotionally hijacked. And as you can see, physiologically, it's very tough, especially now with the uncertainty about the financial future for some of us. And basic needs like food and water and coffee. I went yesterday to the supermarket, and they had paper towels, and people were fighting for them. And I think I could understand why our very primitive brain gets activated, still feeling that there won't be enough. And definitely security, many calls to our center around job security, about questions about when I come back to work, what is the right PPE, the personal protective equipment I should have, childcare issues. This is a very tough crisis because also it requires many layers. Many of you have, and the first layer is just staying calm and taking care of yourself. The second thing is just doing your job and learning how to do your job, virtually. I was just doing a support group I did with an individual who had just joined UCLA 2 weeks ago and had never even seen their colleagues, and now he needs to do his job virtually, The third layer is many of you are in your house with your kids and you need to keep them safe. And also you need to educate them now. So that's definitely very, very difficult. And many of you are in the sandwich generation, are taking care of your parents. I'm very concerned that you cannot see them. Are they complying, this distancing? And the fifth one is for you who are alone. You're scared, how about if I get sick? Who's going to be there? And we know that now people are not letting visitors in the hospital. So there's a lot of different layers that makes the issue of, security more difficult. So as you can see, physiological and safety needs are very, primary, but also we human beings are social animals. So ability to connect is being threatened by this crisis because we don't have the contact that we have and that we used to have with, especially at work with our colleagues. I think silver lining for many people is that being at home and being able to stop everything. Some of you have reached out to people in your past and to family members, and some of you have found deeper connections. I cannot emphasize how important it is to connect. There is a wonderful film I think I have shown to some of you called How to Live Up to 100. And it's if you have seen it, look at it. It's on a TED Talk, How to Live Up to 100. And it talks about the blue zones. The blue zones are the zones in the world, there is 5 of those, where people live more than 100 years with great quality of life. And they find out many different things. Some are dietary, plant-based diet, small portion control. Good news, there's no gyms in these societies, but people are moving all the time. But one thing that all these 5 societies, one is in Okinawa, Japan, the other one is in Corfu, Greece, in Sardinia, Italy, in Tamarindos, Costa Rica, and one here in Loma Linda, California, is that they are connections. They are very, very connected. Like in Okinawa, when you're born, they give you a moai. A moai is a group of 12 people that go with you through life and share your good things and also your sorrows. So connection is linked, to longevity. At UCLA, Dr. Cole did a study with widows and find out that widows don't have any connections, are, die sooner than people who are widowers who have a big network. And how? Now, in the past, we didn't know how this works, but now we know that our immune system is very, very important. And here also in COVID-19 is very important because there is no medication, at this point, no, not vaccine yet. The only thing you can rely is your own immune system. So there are some good hormones like, oxytocin, like dopamine. And there are some hormones that create inflammation like cortisol that are segregated. When we are definitely stressed and very lonely, the cortisol gets segregated. So connecting is very, very important. And people ask me, Jorge, do I need to connect to how many people? It's not in the quantity, but it's in the quality of your connections. Here I put a slide, about, how important, I don't have it here, but it's so important that you connect. And there's 4 magic elements to great connections. One is people need to feel like you're attuned to them, that you get them. And in this space where we are more together with the family, such a good moment to really attune yourself to your kids, to your, spouses, to your, significant others, and even to yourself. The second thing is value me in the way I need it. And this is a good chance to really understand how people who I am surrounded need to be valued. Do they need words? So I need to tell them, you look beautiful, I miss you, or a good job, or they need maybe acts, so I will cook for them, or they need quality time, or maybe they need details, so I get a flower for them, or they need touch. If they live with me, I hug them. So, it's so important to value people in the way they need to be valued, I think it's important that for people to feel safe. So if they share things, be confidential and create and safeguard the safety of your relationship because it's crucial. And the fourth element of great relationship is being there for each other when they need them. And this is a really very important time when we're not doing so much and just being with each other. I think those are the four secrets of great connections. Do you get me? Do you value me? Do I feel safe with you? And are you there for me when I need you? The fourth thing that Maslow speak about it is to maintain our self-esteem. And this is a very important time to do that. And it's hard because, you know, we need to be realistically also be flexible with our expectations. And for those of you who are very hard on yourself, I think this is a time for bring compassion and flexibility. Some things that you can do to maintain your self-esteem that I encourage, there's a movement called the Miracle Morning. It's a book, but also a movement. If you Google it, there's 2 million people following that, in which really people who follow it have increased their self-esteem. And it invites us to really start our day and really break it in 6 segments. You know, you start with mindfulness, you know, meditation. No, don't take your phone. Don't look at the news. Really, in some ways, just connect with yourself. The second thing is to really read and write affirmations. There's a research that shows that neurologically, when you write and when you talk about some things, especially positive things, it will linger. There will be definitely many more dopamines and oxytocin in your brain. And so it's very important. Like I wrote for myself today, you know, I read that today is the 3rd day that in New Zealand, there is no cases. So I wrote, you know, this is something that can be controlled. There is an end to this. I am smart. I can do anything that resonates with you. It needs to be an affirmation that resonates with you. The third thing, you know, that people do is exercise, which is so important. And I do encourage you to go to you see at Recreation have so many great programs that we can do from home. They are amazing. And the fourth thing you do is you read or listen to music just for 5 to 10 minutes of something that nothing has to do with work, but something that nurtures your spirit, right? And the last thing you do is you do an intention, how you want to show up in your day. Like today I had a patient before you, now I'm lecturing to you. I kind of psych myself, how could I bring the best Jorge to this, you know, way of being? So some common concerns I'm sure you have, again, job security, revenue generated, there will be cutbacks. That's something definitely in the mind of all of us. I think practical measures about, you know, now that I'm going out, where will be safe to go and shop or not. You know, I think web conference fatigue, some of you are Zooming one after the other, you know, and definitely I am more tired than when I'm working, you know, I'm working really many hours. And if I don't take care of myself, definitely, you know, Zooming fatigue is something that's happening to me. Many of you, some questioning regarding will there be a second surge, how it will be overwhelming, what is really the information we read now, that different things about what are the risk of infection. So important, you know, to have the right information. And many of you definitely have a lot of childcare questions, especially as we're going to come back to work. And I want to tell you, I'm going to share with you, you know, a deck of resources we put together in Staff and Faculty Counseling Center. And some of them are really around childcare and how to talk to kids about these things. I think some normal reactions you might have is fear, frustration, grief. I think this is very important, you know, grief because, you know, some of you, you know, might need to shift things around what you do, or because you don't feel as safe, or you don't have the autonomy you used to have by yourself now, or loss of dreams. You know, many people, we have many kids who are not graduating, or younger kids who are not seeing their friends, weddings. And, you know, I was supposed to have my daughter's wedding in San Miguel Allende on March 21st. And 10 days before we canceled it, you know, 300 people were supposed to come. And my daughter really is mourning her experience not being able to be married. So this is real, definitely, you know. So I want to tell you of a wonderful source of information for you. It's called the Schwartz Center for compassionate healthcare. You will have it in my slides I'm going to share with you. But if you go there, there's so many great webinars about the emotional, way in which we can take care of ourselves. And in one of them, Patricia Watson, who is director of post-traumatic stress, told us that there's 5 things we can do to deal with adversity. And the first one is to develop a sense of safety, and I think it's so important that you feel that there are many things you cannot control, but there are many things we can control. The kind of equipment, the mask that we're going to, even if we're going to use it or not. If I ask you to make a list of the things that you can control, you will find out there are many things you could do. I have a lot of issues around maybe financial issues. I call my car insurance. They decrease my policy because I'm not driving as much. I decreased my bill in my phone. I mean, I did many things to create, safety around finances. I went and, make sure I have a supply of masks. Who is going to come to the house? How I'm going to go? How I'm cleaning my hands? How often? We have many things we can control, and it's so important to develop a sense of safety. The second thing is so important to calm your mind. I'm going to talk more in details in a second about that, but calming your mind is very, very important. It's not only the external stressors, but a little bit, calming the voices in our head. And I'm encouraging you to read 2 books, which I like very much. One is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And the Feeling Good book. And it's a book that's really focused on techniques to kind of calm that worry side of our brain that creates at times a lot of anxiety. The third thing I mentioned to you, the importance of connection. The fourth thing is, I think, is self-efficacy, to feel like you can do your job and that you are a leader and can control things around you. And the last thing is hope. Hope is very, very powerful. There's a wonderful book called Man in Search of Meaning. Talks about how Viktor Frankl, who survived concentration camp, felt like people who have meaning and purpose always weather better. And also people, in the studies with the blue zones, we know that people have a really sense of hope, perspective, also live longer. And, my favorite research around that was done with nuns. Nuns are a good group to study because they live, very homogeneously. And in a seminary, they went and took a group of nuns. And after 3 years of being in the same seminary, they asked them to write an essay about their philosophy of life. And then they brought researchers, completely blind. They didn't know nothing about the study. And I asked them to separate the piles of these essays in 2 piles. One, the hopeful one, and the second one, not the, the more pessimistic side. And then they put it, for 45 minutes in a drawer. And when they came back, after 45 years, they realized that those nuns who were in the optimistic pile live 7 years more than those who not. And now we know why. We know that, among other things, optimism definitely fills your brain, with oxytocin and dopamine and decreased cortisol and these things that, again, create less illness and less inflammation. So I have some tips for you. I think one of the things we need to do during this time is to do a routine, to stick to a routine, to wake up, go to sleep at regular time and get dressed, and exercise is so important, and the way we eat is so important for immune system, and not only have a routine, but it's so important to, if you have family with you, to involve the family. Kids are scared because it's a random world. So important that you write in front of them from 8 to 9, we're going to go for a walk as a family and we'll cook as a family. At 9 to 12, daddy, mommy is going to work and you're going to do this and this. At 12, we'll come together and cook again at lunch and we'll play this game. And so they see that there's a structure to the day. There is a leader, taking control. The second thing I talked already, how important is stay connected, and not only for you to be called, but you call, especially those people are maybe less popular. You know, the research, if I connect your brain and I give you a present with light, the part of our brain here who is related with pleasure with light. But if I connect your brain when you give something to someone, that's some of that area of our brain lights even much more. Really, it's more pleasure in giving than in receiving, and reaching out to people, especially those who are more lonesome, is a wonderful thing to do. The third thing is, this is a great time. You know, many people are learning to cook and reading books and do puzzling and learning to knit and learning languages. And this is really a good chance to keep your brain active. I think that's very important, really. I think for those of you who are very worried, I have two tips for you. The first one is to really limit how much media you see. A landmark research done after September 11, they went to families where the news were constant there, and they compared with families where people really limit media to 2 segments a day. And they found out that not only them, but the kids had less post-traumatic stress when media was limited. So I think it's important you choose 2 or 3, maybe trusted sources of information, and really limit it in the morning and replace it with things that are more optimistic and more positive, you know, around that. And those of you who are very obsessive and very worried, you know, it's important to have a worry window. Write down all your worries through the day. Give yourself permission to think about them in a specific time. But I think it's so important that, you know, that's it. When you finish those 15 minutes, you continue into your day. And lastly, you know, very important to start your day with meditation and mindfulness. You know, there's so many great apps. You know, there is, you know, Headspace. It's a wonderful app that offer free services now. So check it out. I like HeartMath because it come out with a device. You can buy a device for $40 that shows you how really your breathing and your heart is in congruency. And you can really, through, you know, mindful meditation, decrease your blood pressure, decrease your muscle tension, do many things that really activate your immune system, you know. Gratitude, you know, research, there's an amazing, you know, writer, Martin Seligman, who showed that by 2 minutes, writing 3 things we're very grateful every day, your brain, you feel so much more optimistic about that. So, you know, so important to do these things. Just very quickly, those who you have kids, you know, Dr. Dorita Ram, who's an expert in trauma and kids during this time, she has 5 principles. One is in partnership. Involve your kids in the day. Not only tell them what to do, involve them. This is the plan. Do a stress plan, which I'm going to talk in a minute about that. The second thing is, you know, rules and orders and routine, as I mentioned, is so important. The third thing is leaders. Kids need to feel like somebody's in charge, you know, and that maybe this harmony between the you know, the take carers, the caregivers in the family. The fourth is a good chance to really love and really listen and be empathic and compassionate, you know, for your kids. And the last one is independence. Give them some choices too. So if you Google Dorita Ram, you will see there's a great, many great YouTubes on her giving a lot of great advice. Let me maybe just come back a little bit for a second before I continue. And I wonder if, you know, for you, why don't you share with your group? What are some things you're doing for yourself and for others that had helped you? Just very briefly, maybe share, so it's not only me, but you guys also share. And also, what is your major concerns? What are some, you know, this is kind of a moving target, right? So what are some things that maybe at this point worries you the most, and how has, especially working from home, what is one tip you have for us, you know, working from home? What is, you know, one challenge you have? So maybe just, if you don't mind, you can go to your chat and share, or you can talk to us. We can unmute you.
Hi, Dr. Cherbosque. This is Gina Beery. I think this is a great idea. I would definitely recommend folks to use the chat feature and kind of write those things down. And I could even share those, read those out loud for you if you'd like. But I did want to share myself. One thing that I started doing was, and sometimes I feel like meditating may kill me because to stop for even 5 minutes, and sometimes that's all I've got in me. It's been really helpful. So I try, like a great day is 10 minutes of meditation, and I use an app. You know, sometimes I only do 5 minutes, but that's been really helpful for me to just kind of be more present and be more calm and peaceful.
Great. And you know, some people have problems meditating and quiet their time. So, you know, there's a wonderful mindfulness professor in West LA who teach people to be mindful while they do things they love. So for instance, if you're a surfer, he takes surfers and teach them mindfulness by surfing. Or if you like to cook, he teach you how to be mindful, not only put the ingredients, you know, taste, smell the texture, touch the texture. So we can be mindful. Some people have problems just sitting and in a room and doing these things. So I encourage you to use mindfulness in many ways. You like to go for a walk, take a camera, and really notice the birds and the different things. So be mindful. You can do mindfulness as you do the things you love. And I love, you know, it's Joshua Goldstein, and he does a wonderful thing about teaching people to be mindful while they do the things they enjoy, you know, which is good.
Indeed. And I just got a note from Lauren, our moderator, that the chat to all feature is disabled. So please send any chats to Eric Liu, who should be
I see. That's what.
Yeah. When you hit the chat feature for all of our participants, if you chat to Eric Liu, he'll be able to unmute himself and share those with us.
And Jorge may get the chats as well. It's just because they're the two co-hosts, and so we wanted all the questions for the Q&A session to be funneled to Eric, but you may see something come through too, Jorge.
Good. So I want you to do, I'm going to continue lecture, but I would like you to tell your friends through the chat as I've talked, just put some of the things you have done for you personally, and what are some things specifically you have done to help you work from home? You know, which tips you have for all of us who work from home, you know, to make it better. So I'm going to continue maybe talking because I don't have a lot of time, but definitely would like you guys to enrich yourself from the wisdom from yourselves, okay? So let me share my screen back. You know, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, stress, because these are very, very stressful places and moments. And as you know, we have two systems, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system in our bodies. The sympathetic, as you know, is the one that helps us fight all the stressors that we have. Increase our blood pressure, increase our heart rate, increase sweating, decrease digestions, right? And we need it. If you know, a danger comes, we need more blood in our system. We can't really, our eyes needs to be dilated. We need to be very attentive. The only problem is that when the sympathetic system gets activated, it creates inflammation in the body. So we need the parasympathetic system, which promotes relaxation and healing. It helps us sleep, which is so important in restoring our well-being. Improve circulation, decrease our blood pressure, increase our immunity. The problem is that in modern society, this sympathetic and parasympathetic is completely out of whack. Before, people, you know, will go and hunt and maybe come home and be in this hammock, you know, they rest. But now we come home and there is text and emails and bills, you know, and there's no time to really, some people are working, you know, 24/7. I mean, it's crazy. That's why there's so much more illnesses. There's a wonderful book that I'm going to recommend you if you're serious about learning stress. The title is very funny, but the book is quite serious, and it's a wonderful book by Zamplowski, who is a Nobel Prize winner. And the name of the book is Why Zebras, like the animal, zebras, Don't Have Ulcers. And you know why zebras don't have ulcers? Zebras, they go, and when a lion comes, obviously the sympathetic system comes, and you start kicking blood into your system. You can run, and your eyes get dilated, and heart gets pumping. But after the lion hopefully doesn't get the zebra doesn't think about it, doesn't worry, doesn't think, wow, maybe there's a lion, another lion over there, and I haven't paid my rent. I mean, the zebra just go back to be zebra, to have his parasympathetic kick. And we need to really have, it's very important, force ourselves to do these things. Otherwise, we always will be in a very state of excitability. And the problem with it, as I'm going to send to you, is that too many changes in very short period of time tend to bring more illnesses. And Holmes and Race, there were two physicians in the 70s who realized that people are having heart attacks and problems, tend to have many changes in their life in the previous year. So they create and I'm sure some of you have taken it, the Holmes and Race scale, showing that many people who have many stressors, they give points to many of these stressors, like the death of a spouse is like 100 points. Me and my colleagues feel like COVID-19 is 50 points. So you're already starting with 50 points. I want you to add 50 points to this scale, and if you score more than 300 of these points, the research shows that you have more likely, 86% more likely to get ill than somebody has 150 points. So after I send it to you, take it and see if you have more than 300, please call the Staff and Faculty Counseling Center, because you are more prone to, you need to take care of yourself, because there is definitely a lot of changes, and even positive changes. I told you my daughter was about to get married, and so much stress before her wedding. I'm from Mexico. I want all the family. Marry someone who want very little people in the wedding. So, it's not only negative events. Second thing in which we manage stress is by identifying and listening to our body. So important to listen to our body. Some of you are physiological, you kind of ground your teeth or bruxist. I myself, here I have dermatitis, and it tells me that, some of you guys have gastrointestinal, ulcers, by the way, are not caused by stress, they're caused by bacteria, H. pylori, but they are exacerbated by stress. So I think, you need to see, am I a physical person in the way I respond to stress? Some of you are more emotional. You become more grouchy, more irritable, more teary, more depressed. And some of you are more behavioral. You maybe start eating more, or you start feel bored, or, forgetful. So I also sending you, I think, a signal of stress, because it will be great for you to learn and to put attention to your body. But I think one of the ways in which stress also plays a very big role, especially in COVID-19, is our chatterbox, our mind. And here I want to share with you four ways of thinking that's so important we govern, we manage, and one of them is catastrophic thinking. We go from, I heard Napolitano's address to I'm losing my job, so I'm going to lose my house, and I'm going to be homeless. We go from here to here in a second. And the truth is that there are many very non-likable things, very bad things happening, but there's very few things that are catastrophic. Yet our mind acts like everything is catastrophic. And really, even cancer now is looked as a chronic disease, And I'm telling you, you don't know me, but some of you who know me know that my wife had cancer for 11 years. And she had stage 4 cancer for 5 years. And when they diagnosed her, we went from there to she's going to die. And we have an amazing psychologist that told us, Jorge, don't cross bridges you don't have in front of you. And very likely, and she did live many, many years, a great life. Stay with the bridges you have in front of you. You will get the other ones. When you get there, you will deal with them. They might never even happen to you, but you have so much in your plate. And I think that's so important. Don't deal with the imaginary challenges you don't have. We have enough in our plan to stay with them, and trust that when you get there, you will then find, not make it difficult, but you will find ways to deal with them. Stay present in the, you know. I think the second thing that's so important is many people, as I mentioned to you, focus what's not in your control. And I think there are many things that are in our control. So I encourage you to do a list. I have 10 things, you know, on my control that I can do. What are you going to eat? What time are you going to go to sleep? What are you? How much media you're going to do? Which kind of mask are you going to wear? I mean, so many things on your control. I think the third thing that we do cognitively, we jump from conclusions, from I'm having a sore throat to I'm dying from COVID-19. And I think one of the best things you can do is not to not jump in conclusion, to always ask yourself, what else could it mean? What else could it mean? So I think that's definitely a good tip for you. And for you, how important, as I mentioned to you, to think about hope, to develop realistic hope about that. And for that, affirmations, guided imagery is very, very important for you to do that. Martin Seligman, as a matter of fact, do you want to know if you're an optimistic person and feel hope? Just go to Martin Seligman website. He has the only valid test in the world around optimism. I think one of you might need to mute yourself because I think we're hearing.
That's red.
Oh, I wonder if you can mute people. So
we'll go ahead and try to mute people. No worries.
Thank you. So, you know, this is one way in which, give you an example, these big warriors, this is how we teach people maybe to calm their mind, you know, not only they do what I told you, the window break, but there are questions that we help people move from emotional to cognitive. What's really actually true? What is untrue? How will you handle the worst possible situation? What realistically is likely to happen? Which specific message will help you cope? How would you like to think if you could magically control these situations, you know? So what I want you to do is to really build a shield in a piece of paper that incorporates laughter. Watch this. There's a lot of connection between laughter and your immune system, connection, pets. I didn't talk about that. These pets are such a source of comfort. Music, nutrition, praying. If you're a spiritual person, wow, there's nothing better than that. Sleep, so important. And if you cannot sleep, we're going to have a webinar about sleep. Call my office and we'll give you the link for that. Limit media exposure, do exercise. And as I mentioned to you, do mindfulness. What I want you to do is really a shield. I want you to do one for you and one for your family. Put a piece of paper and put postage every 3 days. What life experiences strengthened me and taught me how to be resilient? This is so important because human beings, you know, if you ask me, Jorge, could you give me a test that will predict if I'm going to be successful in the future? I will tell you there's no such a thing. There's no such a test. But past history, if for 30, 40, 50 years you have been very likely to succeed, the future will tell you the same thing. Write 3 or 4 attitudes, affirmations that really will carry you and hopeful and helpful thinking. Write 3 or 4 actions you're going to do, you know, that will help you deal with the things and work better at home, lead less with your, better with your stressors. Who are your support network? Who are the 3 or 4 people you're going to call to connect today? And write a time. I'm going to do yoga at 8 o'clock. I'm going to go for a walk at 1 and commit to that. And not only that, do for you, have one for your family. Do it together with your family, with your kids, so they feel like there is some order, there is a plan, there is a sense of leadership here. So let me stop share because I'm aware also of my time, and I do want to give you a taste. I want to do for maybe 4 minutes, would you just give you a taste of what do I mean, of something you could do that really, if I will connect your brain, you will want it to do more often because you will see that it's more really oxytocin, that your breathing is definitely much more in congruence with your heart, things that make us live longer. So what I want you to do is just for a minute, leave everything you have in the side and just, you know, put your feet in the floor. And I want you to feel just the ground. Look how gravity, you know, support us. What a wonderful thing. You know, Mother Earth is there to support us. So feel the support from the floor. And I want you to close your eyes for 4 minutes and let me guide you. I want you to put your hands in your belly because I want you to breathe deeply and I want you to feel you're filling up that belly. And I'm going to teach you how to breathe. We need to breathe. You need inhaling with 4 seconds and exhaling with 6 seconds. That's the right way of breathing. So inhaling and exhaling. Again, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. Keep going. Very good. Inhaling and exhaling. And I want to just scan your body. Start with your feet and your toes and your legs. And if you're seeing any tension, just stress and release. I want you to completely feel at home. Your hip, your back, your lower back, your upper back, your shoulders who carry so much of our tension, your neck. Just move it to one side and the other, release all stress. You know, your mouth, you know, your eyes, you know, just fingers, your hands. Keep breathing in and out. In and out. No place to go, just being present. And I want you to imagine you're in a beautiful place. We love the ocean, so many of you are in a beautiful beach with powdery sand under you. And imagine really that the sun is just perfectly shining, caressing your skin. You feel totally present and totally at home. Imagine, you know, that the color of the ocean is blue. The sky also beautiful blue. And the wind is just moving your hair. And you feel totally safe for a minute, totally at home with yourself. Keep breathing in and out. Others prefer to be in a forest, so imagine a beautiful forest with trees and beautiful flowers and grass and a river next to the forest. You hear the water going down the stream. The same hot sun caressing your skin. The same wind. You feel just totally accepting of yourself, strong and reassured toward your future. And I want you to walk for a second. Imagine that you're walking through this forest or this beach into a beautiful bridge that leads to a castle. And in this castle, as you open, you realize this castle represents your life. It's a castle that really is a figure of really your life experiences. And the first room you enter is the room of resilience. And there are movies and pictures being projected into the screen of all the different challenges you had faced in your life, all the risks and challenges you have chosen, and you have become successful with them, and they had gave you a lot of life experience, and including those challenges that life throw you, yeah, you didn't choose, that were difficult, but that they make the texture of your life and make you stronger and wiser. I want you to embrace them because they had been a force of wisdom and strength in the past, in the present, and this resilience will be also your guide toward the future, remembering that even despite all the different challenges we're going to face and we're facing, you had a history of learning, growing, and making you stronger and wiser. I want you to say goodbye to that room and go to another room that is a room of connections. And look at all the people in this room who you are connected, and animals and dogs and pets and cats who bring us so much sense that we're not alone, that we're connected, that we're a family. Think about your colleagues, people you see every day who care for you, who are there for you too. We together create a sense of net that is so important in feeling that we're not alone. And include even people who maybe are not here, who have been and will be eternally part of who you are. Say thank you and leave to another room. And the last room really is a room of gratitude. There's a chair. I want you to sit in this chair. Just contemplate for a minute the great privileges we have. It's amazing. We open the water and there's a faucet and there's water, and hot water and drinkable water, and there is medical care at our hands, and we have beds, things that not 90% of the world have. We're so lucky. A beautiful place, a safe place. We have food, things that so many people in this world don't have. So I think it's so important to also embrace, feel grateful. And I want you to walk out of that, again, castle, back to this beautiful beach or beautiful forest. And imagine that there's that light, white light, really shining you, building like a cocoon around you. And this light really has the resilience experiences in your life, the connections of all the people and pets in your world, and your sense of gratefulness for the privileges that we have. And imagine that they are inside you, protecting you, guiding you, shining not only for you, but you shining for others. Sense of serenity, wisdom, compassion, and love. As those will be characteristics that will be very useful in dealing with COVID-19 in the present, in the future. And when you're ready, I want you to open your eyes. So thank you so much for letting you guide you. It was a 5-minute guided imagery, but really, if I had connected your brain, your breathing, you will see that. And when we are going back to be alive and in person, encourage you to come to the Staff and Faculty Counseling Center. We have biofeedback, and I can connect you to many of these measurements, and you can see in the screen, what do you do to your body when you do that, just in 6 minutes? And really, you will want to do it more, because if you see what happened to your blood pressure, to your temperature, to your breathing and your heart, wow, it will make you so surprised, and you will really want to incorporate it as a habit. I want to thank you, and these questions, I will stay here, but just want again to thank you for all the work. At times the nurses and the doctors who are wonderful are the most visible people, but there's so many people making the campus possible, and you guys play a very important role in that. So I salute you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So now we are going to move into the questions and answers segment of the presentation, and I will turn this back over to Renee. So thank you, Jorge.
Jorge, thank you. That was wonderful, and gets me to get back on Headspace, which Jorge mentioned, and you can do 5-minute meditations there. In this time of stress, we all need that. So we received a lot of questions, and we're going to address the frequently asked questions as well as the ones that just came through the chat. We can't do today all the ones that came in before because of time constraints. So there were several questions about what it's going to look like when the campus reopens and we go back to the office, and what kind of safety precautions, including things like temperature checks or testing. So we wanted to address that. We definitely won't be going back to business as usual. So when we go back, it's going to be a low density return. We'll be telecommuting as much as possible, because we need to preserve the space for the people that can only do their work when they return to the office. And we'll be remotely serving our customers. So the way we'll do the spacing is through rotating schedules on site and at home, through spacing out the workstations, and also things like one-way hallways and one-way in and one-way out. And we will be removing chairs from the meeting rooms to reduce the capacities as well. But there'll be other things too. I mean, you have to think long and hard about whether or not you want a communal coffee pot with a lot of hands touching it, or if you want to bring your own in the future. So we will be providing face masks for employees, and you can also provide your own face coverings. We'll be sanitizing the workspaces and common areas regularly, and that's all of us. All of us will have a role in those new cleaning protocols in terms of cleaning off things like water coolers and other surfaces that we're using. UCLA is also developing a really robust contact tracing system, and that's going to be really key for the campus as we return as well. So one of the next questions was about telecommuting. Will we continue to telecommute when the campus opens back up? In this next phase, we are probably going to have a lot of telecommuting. And that is because we need to maintain the social distancing. We need to have a low density campus when we return. But I believe that with what we've had, this forced experience in experimented telecommuting, I think telecommuting will be here to stay much more than it has been in the past. But we will have telecommuting as much as possible when we return for those who can do their work remotely. So the question is, can we still hire people at this time? This came in from several. We have a hiring freeze on now at the university, and it's a very hard hiring freeze, and it's on until further notice. So any exceptions to hiring, and this goes for any and all positions and even extensions of positions, have to be approved by Administrative Vice Chancellor Beck and or Executive Vice Chancellor Emily Carter, depending on the level of the position. So another question was related to, we all know that the Office of the President said our jobs are safe until June 30th. And this question is twofold. From those who are on contracts, when will we know if contracts are going to be renewed? And will we know ahead of time? And the second one is, with students away from campus and low demand for all of our services right now, will there be layoffs after June 30th? So we are very unsure about when we're coming back to the campus at this point, and don't know what it's going to look like when we come back to campus in terms of the fall, whether or not there'll be classes. So with contracts, it's a pretty sure bet that we are going to have every single contract that has to be, you know, a request for renewal would have to be approved up the chain, all the way up through the Administrative Vice Chancellor and beyond, perhaps to the Executive Vice Chancellor. We will try to give as much advance notice as we can with the contract renewals. With the career positions, there is a 15-day notice period for temporary layoffs or furloughs, and there is a 60-day notice for any permanent layoffs. So we hope we can minimize permanent layoffs, but if there are no people on the campus, there are positions for which we might not have work after July 1st. So this is something that we really need to see what's going to happen, but we already know there's no summer session students. Next. So the question is, why is parking on campus free right now? And when are we going to start charging for parking again? So first of all, parking is not free for visitors or patients right now. It is free for the approximately 1,000 essential workers who are working on the campus. That was something that was decided by the campus administration, that because these employees were coming to work when nobody else was coming to work, that we would provide free parking to those essential workers who are largely medical center, but also some of the custodians who are helping out cleaning the medical center, the valet attendants who are cleaning, mechanics who are cleaning ambulances. So these are a small group of people out of the about 28,000 permit holders. Only about 1,000 right now are on campus. So my expectation is that we would be allowed to start charging for parking permits again when we actually have the low density return to campus starting up. So what's going to happen to the van pool and transit programs? Will they be running, and what steps are being taken to ensure it's safe to ride? So as Matt said in his overview, we do still have some van pools running, and public transit is running, except for Antelope Valley, but with a very reduced Sunday schedule. So they will be continuing to run. There are steps that are being taken already. In terms of the van pool program, we're asking people to wear masks, and that's something that will continue to happen. Some of the van pools may not continue because we have had a number of passengers say that they are not going to want to get back on a van pool. So there will be some reduction in van pools for sure. We hope that once people start coming back to campus, public transit will resume a more normal schedule, because it's a very infrequent schedule right now. In terms of Bruin Bus, Fleet and Transit has developed a very robust set of disinfecting, cleaning protocols for the buses and other protocols. So those things will, for example, include, we're going to limit the number of passengers on Bruin Bus. The passengers will be required to wear masks. There'll be hand sanitizer. The buses will be cleaned every single day very thoroughly, and there'll be a lot of cleaning of handrails and hand straps all during the day. We're also going to have a compartment, plexiglass installed around the driver compartment, and the drivers will have temperature checks. And we also have temperature checks that are required right now for essential staff who are on campus. And our understanding is that as people come back to campus, you will have to certify every morning that you don't have a temperature, that you are safe, that you don't have COVID symptoms, or have temperature check at workplaces. So there are a lot of steps being taken. And the other one that I mentioned was the contact tracing. That is something that's going to be ramping up as well. So what will student employees do if there are no events to staff? So if there are no events, if there, or even if there are very few sales for other reasons, we would probably have a significant reduction in our student staffing. Now there is a ramping up of the contact tracing effort on campus, and I have been told that the intention is to hire student employees for that, as well as full-time staff. So there may be opportunities elsewhere, even if we end up not having events on campus. And I think events are going to take a while to come back. If you have been listening to Governor Newsom's reopening plans, that's in a later stage, certainly not stage 2 as we come back. So all staff meetings. So we intend to have another information session next month. I'm hoping we're back and don't have to continue to keep having all these remote information sessions, but I also wanted to turn it back right now to Lauren Vergel to talk about how there'll be other communication updates moving forward.
Hi, everyone. So just to reiterate the communications that are going out, right now we are sending news bulletins pretty regularly throughout the week with any updates that we get from either the campus, the UC, or other important resources. So make sure you're checking your email for the E&T news bulletins, because that will be the first place we share that information. We also are regularly updating that employee resources webpage that I pointed out earlier in the presentation. So be sure to bookmark that webpage. Supervisors and managers, I'm calling out to you specifically to make sure that you're communicating to your team of employees, especially those that may not have regular access to email or may not be checking it often. So when you do have your team meetings, however they may be on the phone or on Zoom or something, please just reiterate the messages that are getting sent through from E&T to all the employees so we can make sure that everybody's hearing the message. I also wanted to let you guys know that we're going to be rolling out a new intranet soon. So you'll be able to access the intranet page remotely, which we know you can't do right now, but that's in the works. So there's more information that will be flowing and just trying to keep you as informed as possible. So, and I think there were a couple questions submitted via the chat. I'm not sure.
Yes, so let me address those now. One of those questions was, will we be able to sell permits for summer? So if this is about summer session permits, that's going to be online. But if it was about the resumption of permits, yes, we think yes, as we're going back. If we don't go back for summer, then, well, all bets are off on that. But we're certainly hopeful that we're going to be returned by then, so we would then resume selling permits for staff and faculty. There probably won't be much of any students at all on the summer, in the summer, because of no summer session on campus. And another question was, what will operations look like if fall quarter is online instruction? So this is certainly going to impact our operations significantly if that's the case with if all the students remain off campus. This is something that is under a lot of debate right now, not only just on the campus, but also with the LA Department of Public Health. The campus would definitely prefer to have a hybrid model. And that is one where students would have the option of coming to class or continuing to learn remotely, or perhaps would have rotations where one group of students 1 week could come to class and next week another group of students would come to class, and they would rotate, basically telecommuting their learning. So definitely though, if there were no instruction for the fall, that is going to significantly impact all of our operations, because without students here, there are a lot of services that we offer that are really centered around students. So I think we had one more question. Let me see on the chat. See if I can find it. Gotta find it. Is it required to get tested for COVID-19 or antibody test in order to get back in the office? No, it is not required. And the only requirement is that you do, as I understand today, and I think this is going to continue, is that you do a personal health check every morning to make sure you're not having symptoms. So that's all the questions that we're going to address here. There were, a few more questions that we will try to get answers back out that were related to the different kinds of leaves. And Veronica will provide more information on those. We'll send it out so that information is there. This whole presentation will also be shared. So I wanted to say thank you all very much. I'm glad that we were finally able to connect with you today. And we want you to keep in touch with the tools that Lauren is mentioning. We should have those up very soon.